So we are here because you made a huge announcement not too long ago. And I'm sure people have questions, doubts, and they're wondering how we're going to go about this big transition. But just before we start, could you briefly introduce yourselves for those who don't know you both?
My name is Fusi. I'm originally from South Africa. I've been in Dubai for 7 years. I lead City Hill Church.
My name's Pete. I've been in Dubai for 24 years. I'm originally from the United Kingdom.
Not a lot of people know that the two of you are friends. How did that friendship begin?
Well, it started quite a long time ago. As you said, not many people are aware of that. I could come up with a lot of memories, really. I remember when we were in Lincoln in the UK, Pete and I were playing golf together, and it was such a lovely time that we caught up. That's before I even moved to Dubai. But we've been friends for a long time, and even around the time when I first arrived in Dubai, I was working very closely with Pete. A lot of people don't even realize that when I first moved to Dubai, I actually was serving under Pete's team, and we worked very well together.
Yeah, it's quite amazing, because I remember sitting for a coffee not far from here in Caribou, and I was saying to Fusi, why don't you come and join the team? And in those days, we just about to start meeting in the Address Hotel in Dubai Marina, which is where we're meeting right now. So it's quite amazing. It's almost like we've done a full circle and we're back to where we were.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, friendship has been wonderful, just carrying the churches, being there for one another, sharing ideas, and God's been good. The friendship's been
and
wonderful.
We've traveled to different countries together. I remember when we traveled to India together, and we ministered together.
And Ethiopia.
We traveled to Ethiopia together and we ministered together. So we've been friends for a while.
That's right. So you were part of Gateway, and then out of that, Gateway Creek was planted. And people might be wondering, well, 2 churches were planted. Aren't we going backwards now with this joining of churches?
Are we?
I don't think we're going backwards. In one sense, we are. But actually, we're going back to our original purpose of why we were together in the first place. And that's to be an apostolic church that carries the nations, that's strong, that has apostles and prophets, and can be the church that God's called us to be. So I feel like we did lose something when the 2 were planted, but we're coming back to God's plan and purpose for what He had for us from the beginning.
That's true. The original plan was for us to impact this city of Dubai or impact the Emirates, but also equip many in our churches, and also across the UAE, but also plant churches into the nations and impact the nations. So that's what we are called to do, and that's what we are coming back for. So it really is the original plan. And so that's what we believe. And for that reason, if you ask me, are we going back or we going forward, I'll say yes.
And I remember when Gateway Creek was planted, because I basically grew up in Gateway. So it was a very exciting time. And I feel like both churches now are established. They have their own ministries. You both are leading both the churches. So what is the merging together going to look like with you both existingly leading the churches?
Well, you know, it's going to be wonderful. You take all of the best things from both churches. It's a bit like a marriage, you know, husband and wife. Husband has, I wouldn't say who's the husband and who's the wife, but you take all the best bits from one person and another, and, you know, one person's strengths covers the other person's weaknesses. And so in a way, we're going to have to work all of those details out. But, you know, God knew and God planned it, and He's brought us together for a purpose. And, you know, for me, understanding that, you know, how the churches come together, God has gone ahead of us. He's going to help us transition all the different teams. And it's going to be a transition for Fusi and I as well. And so one of us has to lead. And, you know, I really understood in the book of Acts, I don't know if you know the story, but in Barnabas is sent to Antioch. He sees the grace of God in Antioch. And later on, you find that he goes and gets Paul, and you know, Barnabas is leading, and then Paul is leading, and then Paul and Barnabas are sent out on mission. So you've got this fluid team, strong leaders emerging, and I feel like, you know, Fusi and I are going to model that, but Fusi's going to be leading, just like I was leading the team before. Now Fusi's going to be leading the team, and so we really see this grace in us working together. So
I think for me, what stood out for me was when we were talking about this for the first time. It was interesting when we sat there and we were kind of saying, you lead, and then, you know, I was saying that Pete says, you said you lead. And I think what I would say, not only for us, but also for all the ministries in the church, is that let us prefer one another in this whole transition. And it's not about, there's no competition. We are very relaxed in this. Yeah. We are trusting God in this. We believe the leadership of City Gate is going to be by the grace of God. And we believe in the sovereignty of God. And we believe in fluidity. We believe it's going to look so different. And we're going to be surprised what God is going to do. And I'm very relaxed. And Pete is very relaxed to this. And we just watching God really shape the church to what is going to be. So if you ask me, do you guys talk about this a lot? No, we don't talk about who's leading, how is that going to work. We've already established that. But really, we are together for God's purpose on a mission. And that's the most important thing. And for the church, for the city, for the kingdom of God. And that's kind of how we see it.
And it's going to be the same DNA with the serving teams and ministry teams. There's more of a grace that people are preferring one another, working together, the unity, and that's what's coming from the meetings that you guys are having.
Yeah, we hope we're not just modeling this just for now, that it becomes the culture of the church of City Gates, where we really prefer one another, where we really encourage one another, we put one others first, and that becomes who we are. So that's what I'm hoping we'll achieve.
And it's going to take a little bit of, you know, work bringing the two teams together, just like husband and wife, you know, who has which drawer, who puts their socks where. But, you know, we're there for one another. We're there for one another's success. We've got the shared history. We've got the values. We've really got so much that we're already carrying together also in the nations. And so it's a marriage made in heaven.
That's good. That's true, actually. It's the benefits that we're not really starting from scratch. We're not trying to discover values we already have. and the same values. We're not trying to discover our history. We already have shared history. We're not trying to discover vision. We already have a vision that aligns very well. We're not trying to discover prophetic promises. We have so much in common, and that's really fundamental for our coming together. It's so different, so unique, and yet so exciting.
Just like marriage, there is marriage prep, which I think both churches do need. So have you guys thought about what that looks like for both churches coming together, how we can build unity, friendship?
So yeah, I think it's going to be a process, and you've got 2 or 3 different types of people. You've got people that were in Gateway and who don't know members, they're new, they've just been added. And then you've got those who've been around like even longer than, you know, some of the sheikhs. And they're going to have so much joy being reunited with friends and brothers and sisters. And in some cases, it literally is brothers and sisters and uncles and aunties in the 2 churches. And so we've got to get people to meet each other for the first time. So we'll have lots of social times together, some joint meetings together. We've got to do that with all of the various teams, and so we're planning on when we can start getting the teams together and just working out. But I think that the key thing is really each one of us coming humbly, walking in humility, and as we said before, preferring one another and really helping one another, and realizing, keeping our eyes on the big picture that God has put us together for a purpose.
So, as Pete has already said, there's a lot that we'll be doing behind the scenes in preparation. So we want to try and make sure we have as many meetings together as possible leading up to the time that we actually come together officially. So social meetings, but also worship meetings. Social meetings because they help us to engage with one another, to have those small talks, conversations, as he said, brothers and sisters coming together and say, look who's here, look who's in the room. And I think that's going to be really helpful in not only transitioning the names or the communities, but the individuals, because as part of transition, we need to think about the individuals, the mums and dads, the children, everyone. We want to make sure everyone is included in this. And that's why what we want to do is map out a process on how to go about it, engage intensely with one another leading up to the big launch. So that's what we're hoping to do.
Thank you both so much for sharing your heart, your vision, and excitement with us. Just before we end, we know that you both are going through this personal big transition, but also the members of the church are going through this transition. So there are a lot of emotions, a lot of questions, and saying goodbye to familiarity. So is there any advice you'd like to share about embracing this change?
I would say preparing your heart is key. I was just remembering as you were asking me that question, you know, the day, and Fusi and Emily have just had a new baby boy, and you do a lot of preparation before the baby comes. You get the room ready, you know, you get the cots, where's he going to sleep? But there's nothing like that day when he's born and you see him for the first time and he looks up at you and you're just so excited. So I think we've got to keep our eyes on that. You know, there is a labor process that is there, and that sometimes is difficult, but let's keep our eyes on the big picture, that there is joy. You know, we're giving birth to something really new, and I do believe that's very prophetic, by the way.
Someone sent us a message and said, you do realize this is the first member of City Gates that we obviously going to dedicate as City Gates. So I think sometimes some of these things are quite prophetic, more prophetic than we think. But coming back to that question, yes, change is change, and change is inevitable in every one of us lives. And the way we deal with it does matter. So I would say that there are at least two types of people. There might be more. The first group would be those who embrace change just so passionately with excitement before they even understand the details of it, because they just love change. And the second group, and then later maybe struggle and start asking questions later. And the second group would be those who are very nervous, very reluctant to embrace change because it's not their thing. And then later, when they get it, they start to express the excitement. Whatever the case, I'll say the first group really does help in bringing that atmosphere in the room of excitement and all that. And the second group as well, along the way, when those who initially embrace change the first time are struggling, they can help them. But whatever the case, I would say wisdom is important. So ask questions, talk to someone, and really begin to process this out loud. It would help you. Every change needs to be processed out loud. Secondly, I would say communication. The more we communicate, the more we help people with this change, and communication helps with change. And thirdly, the obvious one, prayer. Pray through change and pray in this change that God is glorified more than anything else. So for me, I would say that's what I would.
And I would just add one thing, and let's find one another. Because sometimes change does mean processes and putting things in place, and who's going to do this and who's going to do that, who's going to do kids' work, who's going to do that. But let's find one another and really embrace one another. And I think if we have that as our goal, the other things will take care of themselves, I believe. Yeah.
And that's one of the things we've been talking about a lot. That we want to focus on the people more than we focus on structure, more than anything else, because we believe that change is about people. And once you get that right, I think it makes change much easier. So in this whole process, we want to make sure that we care as much as we can for the people. And that's the most important thing. And I just want to say to the members of City Hill and Gateway, God is doing something great in City Gates. God is giving us a massive vision. God is giving us great capacity. God is going to empower us in this new thing. We are in a new era. Come with us, and God will do you good, because He's about a great work, as Pete often says. And I do believe that. I believe that very much.
Bless you, man.
Cheers. Love you, man.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. I hoped it helped answer some of the key questions you've had. Please keep your eyes peeled for some important dates for our joint socials and events that are coming up. Looking forward to seeing you there. Bye.